Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5-Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on your notifications so you can see all of our episodes. Also, don't forget to go to Facebook and like our Facebook page right now, 5-Star Revolution Podcast. Tonight, we have a very special guest. You might have seen him on TV a couple times. His name is the Spartan Pitbull NIKOS RIKOS. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. Excited to be here. Not just saying it, looking forward to it. I know we've been trying to set this up for a while. So
Yes, sir. And we finally got you on, and we thank you for joining us here tonight.
sure, no problem.
So let's start from the beginning here. I always ask this question. People might be tired of it, but quite frankly, I don't care because I want to know your side of the story. Were you a fan of wrestling growing up? And if so, who were your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, it was one of my first loves when it comes to entertainment and really anything that also stuck over the years. I had my moments where like I fell out of it, like some people do, and we're in the preteen years. But I never like lost touch with it, and just one thing led to another. It became something I was so in love with and passionate about. I was like, it's as simple as like, okay, I want to do this. In terms of my favorites, it's evolved over the years a little bit, but my top has always been my favorite of all time is Goldberg. I'm a 90s kid, so when he's coming up in 97, 98, and he's like just like a superhero. And I love WWF, but I was a big WCW kid. Just, I don't know, there's something about Goldberg and whatnot. Shawn Michaels is right there behind him. The Undertaker is right there behind him. But my idol, my inspiration is Chris Jericho. That's who I pattern a lot of things after, who I've studied. I'm always a fan. But like at one point I did a Q&A with him before I got into the business, and I was just like, I mean, anybody who knows me knows like Jericho is my guy. But I mean, I'm such a big, I mean, you're growing up, like, how can you not love, like, Kane? I'm a huge Kane fan. Like, he caught my attention with the colors and the getup and all that. I mean, I have a lot of guys that, like, I love, RVD, Booker T, Taz. I can go on and on. But, I mean, Goldberg is the all-time. I mean, up here is, I've got it covered up, but it's up here, his tattoo. And when I got into wrestling, I knew that was going to be a problem. So I, got it covered. Can you see it? I got it like kind of covered up. So now it's like, it's a lot bigger, but it was literally his tattoo. And when I got into it, I knew, well, I got when I was 17, I'm 31. So when I got into wrestling at 23, I was like, well, that's gotta, you can't be showing up with the Goldberg tattoo. But yeah, just a fan all my life, and I love The Rock and Stone Cold. I mean, a lot of the generic ones. But over the years, also too, my taste has changed in terms of like what guys I love. Like when I'm younger, I hate William Regal in a good way. He's doing his job, but I found him to be boring. Over the years, get into wrestling, I identify my style, and William Regal's one of my favorite guys to watch. So it's also evolved with who, with my transition into being a wrestler and my growth as a wrestler. Now I watch a guy like Regal, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Back in the day, Goldberg was amazing. Now Goldberg, still amazing, but, we know his matches. It's a few minutes tops, and they are what they are, and they're great. But like now it's like I like Regal and Finley, guys who, when I watched younger, I was like, oh, okay. But now I'm like, oh, God, these are the best wrestlers ever,
I was going to say, you can't compare Shawn Michaels, William Regal, and guys you mentioned to Goldberg. I'm sorry, man, but Goldberg's work rate is not that great in the ring.
Well, it depends how you define that. So, like, Cody Rhodes said something like this. I'm going to butcher it a little bit about Hulk Hogan. And I think he was asked not too long ago, like a few years ago maybe, who's the best wrestler ever? And he said Hulk Hogan. And I think the interviewer was like, okay, but who's the best wrestler He's like, yeah, Hulk Hogan. He's like, it's all the same. He's like, at the end of the day, like what he's doing in there, it's not like the most technical thing, but it's all wrestling. And what he did always got the loudest reaction. It elicited the most emotional response. So it's like, when you go work rate or like style and people break down who's better, it's tough to say because you can watch somebody like Doug Williams, who never got that shine in this country the way he should have, like with his skill and his look and how amazing Doug Williams is, or Dave Taylor. But then you see like Goldberg and you're like, well, yeah, he's not doing what they're doing, but this is a guy who's earned millions of dollars for the business. So there's like both sides of the coin. It's like, a lot of
I
it
can,
all.
I
If
can
you,
see what you're saying. Goldberg and Hulk Hogan were a draw.
yeah, and when you look at what they did, that's wrestling. Like nobody wants to watch Goldberg do holds. I want to watch Finley and Regal and Pete Dunne break down. It's another one of my favorites. Like I want to see them chain. If I see Goldberg grab a head and a wrist, I'm like, no, don't do that. Like I want to see you lift the guy up and throw him. It's like watching a Spider-Man movie and there's too much dialogue. You're like, can we start to get to I like the dialogue and the character building, but can we get to, beating the shit out of each other instead? So,
I
like, it
understand.
depends how you view it. I think Brock Lesnar is the best wrestler. So, I think he's the best. So, when Brock Lesnar's on TV, everybody's watching. His selling is incredible, and he's the most believable wrestler, bar none, in my opinion. When he's in the ring, you're like, I think what he's doing, that looks, like, keep me away from that guy. In real
Yeah.
life, like, keep me away from him. But I'm sorry, you can go on. I get really chatty, so.
That's all right, man. So let's dive into when you first started training.
Hmm.
How did you find out about wrestling school in your area, and who trained you initially?
I had done my homework and looked through schools. I remember stumbling across PWS, which eventually shut down and it became Creative Pro New Jersey. There's also Creative Pro New York. Creative Pro New York, that's Pat Buck and Brian Myers, formerly known as Kurt Hawkins. And I trained more under Pat in New Jersey. Originally, my first experience was I met Robbie E., who's now Robert Stone, at a gym I worked at, and I saw that on his social media he had offered training. So I actually did a very short stint of training with him. Had some great takeaways, but I ultimately knew I needed to be in a school with multiple students. It was me, Robbie, and one other guy. So as good as that was, I still needed to be like in a school environment where like there's training these days a week at these times. So that ended up being Creative Pro New Jersey, aka Wrestle Pro, under Pat Buck, Mario Boccara, Dan Moff, and Kevin Matthews. So, like, I started there in 2013. Yeah, September 2013. Earlier that year is when I did the training with Robbie. So, whether or not people count that, it was a short stint, but still very useful stuff. So 2013 is when I started in Creative Pro New Jersey.
So how was that experience for you when you first started training, and when you realized that wrestling wasn't fake? Because I used to also wrestle in my area, and when I took my first bump, man, it hurt. So how was
Uh,
that experience for you?
the short stint I did with Robbie was very helpful because he even told me this ring that we were in. He said, this is a great start for you. He goes, because this is like a boxing ring. He's like, this is the hardest ring you might ever be in. So even though it was like that was like another useful thing, even though it was a very short stint, bumping in that ring, like then when I eventually months later go to Creative Pro New Jersey, Wrestle Pro, and I'm bumping, it was fine. It was one of those feelings where like I kept doing it. I was like, I like this. And I did take to some things quickly. Like I've been a personal trainer now for 13 years. So it's like I've always been into athletics and working out and fitness. And I never underestimated what was going I didn't know how it was going to feel, but I never underestimated how it was going to feel, if that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, no, I know how a ring is made. That's going to suck, taking a bump. But once I learned like how to do it, I'm like, and I knew how to do it, I was like, okay, got it. And I remember the first night in, it was very reassuring at the school. Anthony Bowens, who's in AEW as part of the Acclaimed, he's grown to be a good friend of mine over the years and wonderful opponent. Um, he came to me and he's like, asking, just kind of welcoming me. I remember him saying, you seem, he's like, you're athletic, you're in shape. He's like, you've got good form in the ring. He seems like, you got something here. And that was like my first night in. Like, and I think when you really watch it like a psycho, like really closely, you can get an appreciation than if you're a casual watcher, like for the movements and how it works. Not just, I'm not saying doing moves, but like watching guys run the ropes and like you can catch little things. Or if you're like me and you're reading all these autobiographies and you're just digesting it, like I was not surprised by feeling the ropes, by like I wasn't afraid of it. I was like, okay, let's just do it. I've seen new kids come in over the years, or I've helped new kids, and I can see them do it, and they have the holy shit moment. Like, oh, this is like a floor. I'm like, yeah, unless you know how to fall, it's like falling on a floor. Like the ring's not gonna move. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I felt it, but it wasn't like, I was just kind of like, let's keep going.
The reason I mentioned that is because people think wrestling is fake, and I want to get your opinion on those people that think wrestling is fake. What do you have to say to those people?
I hear it a lot. I just heard it yesterday. Somebody said to me it's fake, and I'm like, yeah, it is. I was like, that word doesn't bother me. I was like, there's a like I don't blame anybody for saying it's fake, because if they're not into it, what other way are they gonna describe it? And it's the way they come off. If they're like, some people are like, oh, that's fake, right? I'm like, yeah. If they're like, what, the fake stuff? Then it depends on how they approach it. Like I don't get offended by that word. Like I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I usually break it down from like, yes, it's fake. I'm not actually trying to hurt the guy. Like I'm not trying to get hurt. I was like, but I said, I always tell people you'll be surprised at how hurt you get. And people say, oh, it's choreographed. I'm like, no. I'm like, not really. I'm like, the last thing I want to do, and most wrestlers want to do when they go to a show, is literally practice the match. I said they'd rather just talk about it and then go do it. I was like, so when people see like, oh, what did you do, this and that? I'm like, no. Like, and I don't talk about the business with a lot of people, depends who it is and if they're close to me. But like, I'm like, no. I was like, do you think I wanted to do that move earlier in the day when I walked in the door? I'm like, as long as I know how to do it, I'm like, I don't need to be in there going through a 20-minute match and like a rehearsal. So I'll tell people, I'm like, to me, I've never been offended by that word. It's just the way it comes off. If you're
Right.
if you're asking me like, is it fake? Like I can see you're not judgmental. But when people go like, it's the way they approach it. It's like, but either way, my answer is the same. It's like, hey, yeah, look, it is. But at the end of the day, I'm like, if it was like completely as fake as you think, I'm like, we wouldn't get hurt. I was like, we get hurt. I was like, I
Yes.
I I caught a pretty big concussion 10 weeks ago, and I got another one 3 weeks ago, and I had somebody accidentally punch me square in the face in the beginning of the match, split my lip, and I got concussed again. Like, probably shouldn't be mentioning all the concussion, but I'm like, if it was truly what you think it is, I wouldn't be getting hurt. So I was like, that's how I describe it. I'm like, yeah, it is, but we get hurt. We are our own stunt people.
I
So
appreciate that answer, man. And to those people that think it's fake, I say that you can't fake gravity, my friend. There's no way you can fake
you can't.
gravity.
You can try to control it. You can control it as best you can, and sometimes you can't. Like you can control. Like I've had ladder matches where I'm like, I know how this is supposed to go, and then it goes the other way, or it goes
Right.
exactly the way I want it. So it's like you have somebody else in there that you have to dance with. So you have to hope it's like I don't, as a sidebar, I don't dive a lot. I could, but I don't feel the need to. And I did a dive 3 weeks ago. Everybody in the locker room was like, oh, you never dive. And I'm like, yeah, this was a special occasion. As I dove, nothing to do with the guys I wrestled. I love those guys. The ladder was poking out from under the ring. The only thing the back of my head hit was the ladder.
Ouch.
So it happens. Like, I was fine. The jump, no problem. But a little bit of the ladder is just creeping out of the curtain, and that's the only thing my head hit. And I was out of it for like 10 seconds. I was like, okay, I'm good. Not a lot of people can do that. I'm not just giving myself credit, all wrestlers credit. Not a lot of people can do that and get up in anything, nonetheless, something athletic.
So let's talk about the Nikos Rikos character. For those people that don't know who you are, do you mind explaining who Nikos Rikos is?
Yeah. Nikos obviously represents Greece. I make a very stark point, if that's the right word, to point out that it's not somebody who hates America, because that's not what I'm about at all. And it's a representation of Greece, but the character started out years ago as like a hustler, like vignettes of like, I would actually cut promos and offer another wrestler money to take my spot in the match. Like, whether they win or lose, I don't care. You want a shot on the show, kid? Here, you pay me. And that was kind of how it went. It's evolved where now, it's like Greece isn't something that has gotten a ton of representation in wrestling. You see Italy, you've seen Russia, you've seen Germany, Iran, obviously. But Greece hasn't. And the characters, or me, it's an extension of me. People know me. Anybody who knows me closely, I get called a dick multiple times a week because my personality and the way that I like to mess around and how I can be very dry. But the nickname is the Spartan Pitbull, and I picked that nickname, and I've also adapted the nickname to myself, the Prize Fighter, because I look at it from like a legitimate, which we are, athlete's point of view. So like when I'll get to the prize for in a second, like the Spartan Pitbull, I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'10". I'm usually between 2 and 215. So, I'm like a compact, I'm stocky, whatever. People say like I'm crazy. I have like body dysmorphia. So I look at myself, I think I'm fat. People are like, what are you, nuts? But like, I'm more of not like a power wrestler, because at the end of the day, I'm 200 pounds. But like, that's why I like a guy like Taz. I see Taz or like Pete Dunne or Jericho, and I'm like, okay, those guys are on the shorter side. They're stockier, but they pack a mean punch, and they're tough as hell. And they're like an Eddie Guerrero will carry himself like he's 6'5". Like I have an ego. I'm cocky. Like I know I'm good at this. And at the same time, guys who know me know I hit hard. So like, could I do a sweet drop kick? You bet your ass I can. Can I do a flip if I want? Sure. But I rarely do that because I'm ground and pound like a pit bull. They're short, they're stock, they're compact. They're amazing, loyal dogs. I love dogs. I do rescue. But they're not also the dog you want to fuck with. So there's also that. They'll put their feet in the ground and kick back like a bull. The prize fighter is my idea of, at the end of the day, however you want to take this, gimmick or not, there is a prize at stake. There's momentum on the line, there's money on the line, and there's future success on the line. So people can take their approach all they want. Nowadays, the big thing is how a lot of wrestlers just care about the moves and getting a "this is awesome" chance. It's like, well, I'm all about the prize, and that prize is represented through multiple things: the victory of the match, earning more money as my career goes on, earning more opportunities to wrestle different places, earning the contract that I will eventually sign, where I don't know. But that's just my confidence speaking and whatnot. So there's also that approach, is like the athlete is like, yeah, I'm a wrestler. I've got the character. I've got the crazy gear. I've got the flag. But at the end of the day, I'm focused on what I want to get. So some people can get in the ring and they can do their comedy and they could dance and they could try to pop the locker room, but I'm there to make a statement, turn heads, do my job to the crowd, and then get the fuck out. So, like, I'm not there to entertain just the locker room or mess, just the way that some wrestlers are. And I'm thinking of a bunch of people whose names I'm not going to say. Not a bunch, but, a few. It's a superstar mentality as opposed to just a wrestler. I like the word sports entertainer. So that's why I'm like, yeah, sports entertainer. It's wrestler too as well. But I like sports entertainment. So it's like it's that mindset of like superstar. I'm like, yeah, you guys can have your fun here. I said, but I'm also here to get to another level. So that's where my focus is. Long answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, man. This is your time, your show. Very interesting answer, and I love that. So I'm gonna put you to the test now. I do this to every wrestler that comes on the podcast. You have to shoot a promo for me in character for like 30 seconds if you can on your next match, on your next opponent. You think you can do it?
So let me get this straight. I see this little timer in the corner. So I'm on your show, correct? Right.
Yes.
A moment ago, I think I forgot how you said it. You're like, this is your show. You actually said to me, this is your show. You're like, so go ahead, talk all you want. And then seconds later, you follow up with, can you cut a promo for me? Or no, I'm sorry. I don't think you even asked me. I think you told me to cut a promo. Kind of like this is tough enough, or as if I'm being put on the spot. And then you follow up by saying, if you can. So you've seen some of my credentials. I know I've got a lot more work to do in this business. I haven't hit the peak. I know that. You can see my apartment behind me. It's not a mansion. It one day fucking will be. But here's the thing. I come on your show. You know what? Let's rebrand the show, the NIKOS RIKOS Wrestling Podcast. Because what's going to happen after this promo is nobody else is going to want to come on. Because when they get to this point in the show, they're going to realize they don't have shit to say that's going to be better than NIKOS RIKOS. Because people can come on and they'll probably go into the, they'll do, hey, and they'll put their hands together and they'll do this thing because this means they're nervous. They'll probably look around, or if they do a Hollywood character, they're going to look up as if there's 10,000 people on their ceiling, I guess, but I don't do that. That sounds pretty stupid to me. So I'm going to be real with you. If you want to put me on the spot and you want a promo that's 30 seconds, if I can, I got news for you. I'm watching the ticker. The promo is now going on roughly 90 seconds. This shit already started because I don't really cut promos. I talk in real life. I've got an ambiance behind me. I actually turned on my Christmas tree. I love Christmas. It doesn't need to be on, but it's on. I actually made sure it's nothing fancy. I changed my shirt real quick. I still made sure my hair was done. And I see you sitting in, I don't know where you are, a closet, a bathroom, maybe you're at work. It's a very questionable, it looks like a bad TikTok when people angle the phone underneath them and they don't pay attention to what the hell's behind them. And furthermore, there's something in the corner of your room. I don't know what, but it's super concerning to me. I don't know if somebody's in your closet and they wrote an SOS, like a help sign, and they slapped it there before the interview to get the hell out of there because CJ Price is a psychopath who stuffs people in his closet. He wants them in their creep room while he does these weird podcasts where he demands wrestlers to cut promos, even though they're his guest. You said 30 seconds. I just gave you 3 minutes.
That was awesome, man. That was awesome. That was really good. So I want to dive right in because we're running out of time. I had a lot more questions, but we're running out of time. I want to dive into your time with NXT and Raw, and I'm pretty sure you were on AEW, correct?
No.
No.
AEW, no, not we're not there yet.
Not dark. No dark episode.
No, I've wrestled somebody from AEW recently. Yeah, I don't want to say time and not to come off like I spent time there per se. I did NXT in the summer of 2019. It was extra work. I ended up getting a match with Keith Lee. I was down there for 2 days of tapings, three total. 3 days total, 2 days of tapings. I did get a chance to wrestle Keith Lee, if you want to call it that. It was a quick match, amazing experience. I will say this about the experience, and I'll try to keep it quick, is they let me be me. I didn't wear something generic. They had me be me. They changed the spelling of my name. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I kind of liked it better. They put a NYKOS, I think it was, as opposed to NI. But one thing I took away from that experience, besides, being there, the obvious things, and being backstage, was my feeling of being there. Meaning, when it was my turn to go out and I stepped onto the stage, I always get nervous before any match. I don't care if there's 20 people in the building or 2,000, or Raw, where there's whatever, 14,000, whatever it was. I stepped on the stage and all my nerves went away. And that was my biggest takeaway. The first thing I thought was, I was like, I should be here. Like, I should be here every week. And I wasn't nervous. I felt at home. And I watched it back, which I usually hate watching myself back. And I was like, oh yeah, I look comfortable. And that was an amazing experience. Raw was months later. I think it was back-to-back months I did Raw. That was against the Viking Raiders, with one of my good friends from Creative Pro. He's one of the coaches there now, Bobby Wayward, who's a mega talented wrestler. We were the East Hampton Polo Boys, non-title, of course, because it was for the title. We would have won. So we went out there and we got murdered. And then, a month later, I was security for a pull-apart between Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, AOP, Seth Rollins. And we had to escort Seth and AOP out of the building. And Impact, I also did a tag team match for them with three guys from my school. Buster Jackson, who's now in NXT as a referee. He made his debut on TV last night. Justin Carino and Matt McIntosh. I've had those experiences, and all in all, they were incredible. Just to even be within the environment and see how things are working it's quite fascinating. Even when you just watch the production, you're like, you think you know how much goes into it, but when you watch the amount of people that are doing stuff, you can appreciate it so much more. And the people that we don't even know about, the guys that are rigging lights, look at this guy. And we don't even know these unsung heroes that are up there making sure when you tune into USA or, whatever, it's going to look phenomenal. And that's why it does. So that was a huge takeaway. It was like, look at the people working on this.
So working for Impact, working for NXT, and working for RAW, what was your favorite place, or I should say your favorite experience? And what did you take from that experience that you apply now in your career?
NXT was the comfortability, was, again, feeling like I should be there. The biggest takeaway from all of them is, again, being in the environment and just understanding to an extent, because you're just also trying to just stay out of the way, looking at how much goes into it, which makes you appreciate it that much more. And a lot goes into the Wrestle Pro shows that we do, especially at the Rec Center in Rahway. But when you're there and you're just watching what goes into it, and that's one episode, and they're doing 52 Raws and 52 SmackDowns, and you're watching all this, and you're like, this is incredible. So the biggest takeaway was seeing the hustle and the grind and what goes on, how they just make a backstage arena like WWE's big office. And it's just really incredible to watch what goes into it. And I mean, the feedback was great. Terry Taylor, who was the producer for the match with Keith Lee and I, he loved it. He told me, he's like, everything you did was great. He was like, you're coachable. We love that. Triple H, to get a handshake from him and Gorilla after having the match on Raw, he's like, you guys are right. He's like, that was great. Thank you. Again, it's very minor feedback, but it goes a long way to know this is what they wanted me to do. I did it. Good. It was about getting through it, doing it correctly, but enjoying the experience, taking it in, and kind of having an outer body analyzing how it felt. And I'm like, this feels right. I want to be back here again.
Sounds awesome, man. 2 more questions before I let you go, sir.
Go for it.
You've been around for about 6 years in the business now, right?
A little over 8.
Okay. 8 years. I know you have at least one funny road story that you can tell us real quick. Mind telling us one?
Yeah, no, there's a bunch. Let's see. There was one I was with my. Oh man, I mean, I guess funny is subjective. Like I could tell this story, and somebody could listen and be like, "That's not funny," but uh, no, to me, to me, it's funny. Um, there was one night where Jeff Cannonball, who's a well-known worker, especially in like the deathmatch scene, he has a YouTube show. If I would love to plug it real quick, and I forgot what it's called. Where aside from wrestling, he has wrestlers backstage try out the world's hottest hot sauces, and so I was at a show. I was with my one of my trainers and a guy who has become my mentor and a big brother of mine, Danny Moff, who's a legend. And I was with him. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. So he's like, this is the hottest one. I was like, okay. And there were guys like screaming. So I did it, and I just stood there. I've tried hot sauces before from like other countries, and I was like, I felt it, but I refused. I'm like, no, don't. I'm trying not to sell it. It was hot, and he was like, you good? I'm like, yeah. He's like, wow. He's like, that nobody like you acted like that didn't even affect you. I was like, oh, it's hot, but it wasn't like I'm gonna scream. And then I don't know what happened, but about 30 minutes later, I'm driving us home, me and Danny, and I don't know. I had a protein bar, maybe something didn't mix. And as we're driving, I start sweating and I'm getting cold, and and I'm rocking back and forth. And I have a good tolerance for pain, but I'm like, he's on the phone with a guy, and I'm like, Danny, I can't do this. And he's like, what? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And like I'm driving, I just pull over on the shoulder. I don't pay attention. I swing my door open. He's screaming at me that cars are coming. And I just had to like go for a walk, like holding my head. I bent over. I tried to puke. I couldn't puke. I sat down. I had the shakes. And, I was like, you have to drive us. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then he's like, all right. And he calls up the guy, Jeff Campbell. He's like, what did you do to my boy? And he's like, what? He's like, he's fucking dying. And I was like, dude, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it was karma for acting like it didn't bother me and just keeping my face straight. But I don't know. Something destroyed me. And another Danny story was anybody who knows him knows like you don't interrupt him while he's trying to eat. And we were on the road at an Arby's, and they have this thing where I've never been there once. I've only been there once. The kid was like, you put the order, he's looking at you, he's like, can I get a number 7? And there's a PA system to the chefs. So I guess they just hear it in the back, instead of like him yelling it or something. And I just like to mess with people that I don't even know. And the kid was going to like put the order in, and I took his mic and I like pulled it away from him. And the kid was like, okay. Like, he's like, all right, very funny. He took his mic back and he went, yeah, can I get a number? And I just pulled the mic away again. And he's like, all right, can I have it back? And then like, I'm like, okay. And he put my order in already. And Danny's like, dude, just can you please stop? Like, and then the kid's like, can I get a number? I just yanked it away. I think he threw me. Like I think he eventually, like my friend Danny, he checked into me and like threw me like 5 feet. Because the kid just was going to put Danny's order through. I just kept taking his microphone away. I don't even know the kid. I just kept like fucking around with him. I don't know. I get into moods. And I make him nervous when we go out to eat with the boys. He always tells me, please don't mess with the waiter. He's like, these are people who can spit in our food. Like one time I said to one guy, I'm like, excuse me. And I did that just to make him scared. He's like, don't, just fucking stop it. Stop. He's like, don't do that. He's going to spit in our food. And like I was told, whatever, stupid shit like that. It's little things.
That's funny, man. That's funny. So one last question, Mr. Rikos. What can we expect out of you in the next 3 years, man?
Next 3 years, I mean, there's stuff coming up that's big just in the next 3 weeks. If that, I've got this Friday, I'm defending the ISPW Tri-State Championship against Vincent Marseglia, who the Horror King. So that's a good opportunity. January 14th, I have Matt Seidel. I just wrestled Sean Dean from AEW 2 weeks ago, 2 days after Christmas. Thanksgiving, sorry. So this year coming up alone, is really a big focus for me to make a bigger like splash. And I've got a couple fun things in the works that I don't want to and can't speak to just yet. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. So it's a matter of seeing them through right now. But 3 years, you'll be tuning into some channel to watch me. So
I expect it, my friend. I
it's
expect
just a
it.
matter of which one. That's all. So
All right, man. Where can our fans follow you on social media?
Twitter at OPA underscore Nikos Rikos. Facebook is Nikos Rikos. I'm building a YouTube page. I'm not very good at staying on top of it. I'm doing like extracurricular stuff on there. Like I'm a big nerd. Behind me and throughout my whole apartment is collections of Batman, wrestling, Star Wars. I'm a big figure collector. So there's unboxings. That's one of my shelves behind me. There's unboxings on there. I do rescue with animals. I've got hamsters behind me in cages that I have to take care of soon. So I post that stuff. I upload different content. So there's the YouTube page, Nikos Rikos. But yeah, at Opa Nikos Rikos, there's underscore after Opa. So I should probably get better at like describing that.
Well, there you go, folks. Go follow him on social media. Nikos Rikos on Facebook. You might see him on your TV channel again real soon, and go check him out at his wrestling events. Also, don't forget, go over to Facebook, like us on Facebook, 5 Star Revolution Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 5 Star Revolution Podcast. Mr. Nikos Rikos, we wish you the best of luck in your career, and we thank you once again for joining us here tonight.
Thank you. Same to you.
Have a great night, man.
You too.